The sky had never looked like that before. It began as a normal day, the kind where people hurried through the streets, whispering, arguing, laughing, unaware that history itself was about to tremble. The sun rose as it always did, casting light over the land, but by midday, something felt wrong. The air grew heavy, like the world was holding its breath. And far outside the city, on a lonely hill, 3 crosses stood against the horizon. On the middle cross was Jesus. His hands were nailed, his feet pierced, his body bruised and broken. Blood ran down the wood, staining it dark. The one who had healed the sick, who had opened blind eyes, who had calmed storms with a word, now hung in silence, struggling for each breath. The crowd below was restless. Some mocked him, some cried, others simply watched, not fully understanding what they were witnessing. But heaven understood. As Jesus lifted his head, pain filling every movement, the world around him began to change. The bright sky slowly dimmed, as if someone had begun to close a curtain over the sun. The light faded and faded until darkness covered the land. It was not the gentle darkness of night. It was deep, unnatural, unsettling, the kind of darkness that made hearts beat faster and voices fall silent. People looked up in fear. The sun had not set, yet it could no longer be seen. It was as if creation itself could not bear to watch what was happening to its creator. And in that darkness, something powerful was taking place. This was not just a man dying. This was God reaching down to humanity in the deepest way possible. Every lie ever told, every act of hatred, every moment of selfishness, every hidden sin, it was all being placed upon Jesus. The weight of the world, the burden of all wrongdoing rested on him. And though the crowd saw only a suffering man, heaven saw a Savior carrying the pain of all people, past, present, and future. The earth grew still. Even the wind seemed to pause. And then Jesus spoke. His voice, though weak, carried through the darkness, words filled with both agony and purpose, words that revealed a pain deeper than the nails, deeper than the wounds. My God, why have you forsaken me?" For a moment, it felt as though heaven itself had gone silent. The connection between the Father and the Son, perfect and unbroken from eternity, was now wrapped in mystery and sorrow. Jesus was experiencing something no one else ever could, the full weight of separation caused by sin. The crowd did not understand. Some shook their heads, some misunderstood his cry, but this was the moment everything was changing. Then, after hours of suffering, after enduring pain beyond words, Jesus gathered his remaining strength. He took a breath, and he said, "It is finished." Not a whisper of defeat, but a declaration of victory. At that very moment, the earth responded. The ground beneath the people began to shake violently. Stones cracked. The earth split open. It was not a gentle tremor. It was a terrifying quake that made people fall to their knees. Buildings trembled. Dust rose into the dark sky. Fear spread through the crowd like wildfire. Something was happening. Something beyond human understanding. Far away, inside the temple, the most sacred place where people believed they could meet God, hangs a great curtain, thick, heavy, and tall. It separated people from the most holy place where God's presence was believed to dwell. No one could pass beyond it. No one until that moment. Without warning, the curtain began to tear. Not from the bottom, as if human hands had grabbed it, but from the top, as if an invisible hand from heaven had reached down. It ripped apart, completely. The barrier between God and humanity was gone. What had once separated people from God was now opened. The way was made clear. Through Jesus, anyone could come close to God, not with fear, but with hope. Back on the hill, as the earth shook and the sky remained dark, Jesus spoke one final time, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." And then he breathed his last. Silence followed, a heavy, overwhelming silence, the kind that makes time feel like it has stopped. The soldiers who had mocked him now stood still, their hearts shaken. One of them looked at Jesus and said softly, "Surely this was the Son of God." Even those who had doubted began to feel it. This was no ordinary death. This was something holy, something powerful, something that changed everything. The darkness lingered for a while, as if the world itself was mourning, but slowly the light began to return. The sky softened, the earth grew still again, yet nothing was truly the same. Because at that cross, something invisible but eternal had taken place. Justice had been met, love had been proven, and a bridge had been built between heaven and earth. What looked like defeat was actually the greatest victory the world would ever know. Jesus had not been overpowered. He had chosen this, chosen to suffer, chosen to endure, chosen to give his life, all for love, all for humanity, all for you. And though that day was filled with fear, with darkness, and with terrifying signs, it was not the end of the story. Because beyond the silence of that moment, beyond the grief and confusion, something greater was coming. Hope was not lost. It was just beginning. The torn curtain meant no one had to stand far from God anymore. The shaking earth was a sign that something unshakable had begun. The darkened sky showed that even in the darkest moments, God was still at work. And the cross, once a symbol of pain, became a symbol of love. A love so deep, so powerful, that it reached into the darkest places and brought light. So when you think of that day, when you imagine the sky turning dark, the ground shaking, and the curtain tearing, remember this: God was not absent. He was closer than ever, working through the pain, turning sorrow into salvation, turning death into life. And even now, that same love remains, a love that sees you, a love that knows you, a love that calls you closer. Because what happened on that cross was not just for that moment in history, it was for every moment, for every heart, forever. And in the end, the terrifying signs were not meant to bring fear alone. They were meant to show the world something unforgettable, that even in the darkest hour, God's love shines the brightest.